This was a very short chapter of One Piece, and so I hope Oda is doing okay, because last week we got a break when one wasn't supposed to be scheduled, and then this week we get a short 15-page chapter. So I truly hope that he's fine and that these things have nothing to do with his health or anything serious. We get a cover page with Kinemon and Otsuru's date night, because they're married. And Kinemon looks huge from that perspective. He looks so tall. Otsuru goes up to his waist. This is probably one of the most Wano-y cover page requests that we've had. There's a little tanuki walking beside them, a little statue, miniature statue of Buddha, and then there's a fox lighting the way with his little Foxfire. Foxfire. No, and that's a reference to Kinemon's name.
Kinemon has always been referred to as Foxfire Kinemon since we got introduced to him in Punk Hazard because of his Foxfire sword style, which allows him to cut fire, which is a technique that Zoro is still yet to learn, right? Many of us have predicted that Zoro will learn how to cut fire in Wano, which is a technique that would be incredibly useful if he happens to fight King, because King has some fire to his design, but also he's called King the Conflagration or King the Fire. Personally, I would have gone with King the Inferno, but either way, like, he uses fire, so it would be a good idea for Zoro to get on that technique and learn it as soon as possible. Maybe he can learn it after he gets Shusui back, because right now he only has 2 swords, right? Or maybe he can learn it after he upgrades his Sendai Kitetsu for the Nidai Kitetsu.
Anyway, O-Lin is just trashing Yonko Commander Level 2 Queen throughout this chapter. Like, she grabs that Brontosaurus neck and starts spinning it like she's in some kind of Olympic hammer throw competition. Now, despite the fact that Big Mom is obviously dominating him, I do have to give props to Queen, because the way that the last chapter ended, I mean, we literally saw Big Mom smash Queen's face into the ground. And after that, he was still conscious. He was still talking. I mean, granted, Big Mom has him in a headlock, or I should say neck lock, but he's still kicking, right? And then even after she spins him away, he's still alive. Like, he's still, not that he would die, but he's still conscious. He's not like complaining about the pain or anything. He's thinking about the Oshiruko. It's kind of cool that he didn't get completely knocked unconscious, right? And if you think about it, the fact that Big Mom literally pushed him out of his Zoan form makes perfect sense in accordance with the scaling that we have before, because in Whole Cake Island, Big Mom, using Haki on her arms, was able to push Luffy out of Gear 4th. Now, back then, Luffy was around that Yonko, first Yonko Commander level tier, right? So if she would do that to Luffy, it makes perfect sense that she would be able, like, to push Queen out of his Zoan form, given the fact that Queen is 2nd Yonko Commander level. And she did this without using Haki on her arms, which makes perfect sense scaling-wise. Now, next week, we should be getting an updated feat regarding how Luffy stacks up against a Yonko, because that's how this chapter ends. And if you take that logic into consideration, the fact that Luffy is trying to take on Yonko, or, trying to challenge these Yonko tier characters. Granted, he's not putting up much of a fight against them, right? And he's not really, dealing a lot of damage, if at all, or if any. But if you follow that logic, it would support, I still am a strong proponent of the idea that Zoro has to fight King and Sanji has to fight Queen by the end of this arc. Like, the two of them have to follow under Luffy to some extent. Otherwise, you just get this massive, disproportionate power gap. The power gap between Luffy and Zoro and Sanji should not exceed the gap between a Yonko and his top commanders. Now, this chapter also sets up the beginnings of a massive jail outbreak from the mines of Udon, because not only does Big Mom's attack end up unintentionally freeing Kid and Killer, just pulls them out of the water, right? But the Brontosaurus ends up destroying the jail cell that is holding Kawamatsu. So as soon as Raizo gets those keys, it's going to be chaos all around. And because communications are down and there are no reinforcements coming in, this is a perfect opportunity for Luffy and his allies to leave, so that by the time reinforcements do show up, like nobody's there anymore, right? So they're gonna leave and they're gonna regroup. And I don't know if you remember, but I think it was last chapter or a chapter before that, Robin or Nami was saying like we need to find a place to regroup, right? After this, after all this chaos in the capital, we need to find a place to regroup. And so this is providing a perfect window for Luffy and his allies to regroup. And I believe that that's how Act 2 of Wano is going to end, with the allies just like, you know, getting away from the chaos and just, you know, taking a breather. We get a brief sequence with Raizo thinking about a conversation that he had with Caribou about how Caribou was going to take out the communications, or he was going to be responsible for doing so, because he knows how the system works in Wano. Essentially, if you take out the boss transponder snail, the other snails can't communicate with each other. And Caribou volunteers to find the boss transponder snail and smother it. And the reason for why he volunteers so enthusiastically is because Caribou has a creepy history of enjoying suffocating things. He tried smothering Shirahoshi back in Fishman Island. So if you just replace Shirahoshi in this picture with a giant boss transponder snail, that's essentially a pretty good depiction of what Caribou is busy doing right now.
Last time we saw Caribou, he seemed pretty serious and adamant about wanting to become Luffy's ally. Try to convince him that he had changed, that he was going to help him. And there was a brief moment where Luffy considered it, and he's like, okay, sure, but only because you've changed. and so it was kind of a gag moment, because it was like, wait, like why did you just trust him all of a sudden? So we don't really know what Caribou's intentions are, but it seems like, at the very least, he's teamed up with Raizo, perhaps because he's trying to gain people's trust to fulfill his own agenda later.
Anyway, Big Mom gets her hands on the Oshiruko pot, and I love that panel showcasing her pure, genuine disappointment with the black background. That was just awesome. It's just like a little girl didn't get her candy. There's some pretty good Big Mom panels in this chapter, art-wise. The first one being the one that I just talked about. And the second one is when she turns around when you know, Luffy's busy being an idiot, and he opens up his mouth about like him being the one who ate the Oshiruko, and you see her turn around like literally an old hag. Which, by the way, Queen called her an old hag, which is exactly the same thing that Kaido calls Big Mom. So I'm pretty sure that's where he got it from. Which again serves to highlight the fact that there's some previous history between Kaido and Big Mom's crew. Anyway, the funniest part out of this entire chapter for me was when Big Mom starts attacking Luffy, starts pushing him back, right, to the edge of the ring. And Big Mom's like, who is this Big Mom? But more importantly, who are you? And Luffy's like, oh, I know why you don't recognize me. It's because I'm dressed as a samurai, which has absolutely nothing to do with the reason for why Big Mom doesn't recognize Luffy. Another great comedic moment is when the fodder try to negotiate a deal with O-Lin. She just throws a boulder at them and she's like, shut up! Almost as if she could smell that they were fodder. Napoleon is still dead on Big Mom's head, and I think he's going to be the best indicator to showcase the moment where she actually snaps out of her amnesia. So when Napoleon regains consciousness and he wakes up, that's when Big Mom is going to regain her memories. Now there's a very brief moment that I think is easy to overlook in this chapter where Chopper and Okiku realize that Big Mom is doing this because she wants to have a meal with her friends. She wants to share a meal with her friends, sort of as a way of repaying them. And I think this moment is important because there's been a theory that has been around since Whole Cake Island that states that eventually Chopper will develop a cure for Big Mom's, hunger rage or her hunger pangs, right? So, and I think that if that's ever going to happen, right, if Chopper's ever going to try and cure Big Mom from this thing that she has, it has to come from a place of him realizing that she's not so much evil as, it's more of the fact that she has a disorder. She's not right in the head. And so I think that Chopper, like, getting close to her, in a sense, right, is going to serve to kind of give him that motivation to develop that cure. O-Lin then pushes Luffy and Hyogoro out of the ring. Well, she actually destroys the ring. And so while they're in the air, Hyogoro and Luffy's collar starts beeping. And this is a complete, total reference to Rayleigh back when he removed Kami's collar at the auction house. And in that scene, back when Rayleigh removed the collar, we weren't really sure. Like Oda like left it a little bit mysterious, right? We didn't get to see exactly what Rayleigh did. All we understood is that he used Haki to some extent. This chapter makes it clear what Rayleigh did. Like it all makes sense now after this. Turns out that Rayleigh and now Luffy used advanced Armament Haki flow to remove the collars. And we have confirmation of this because Hyogoro tells Luffy, hey, that thing that you just did, I'm going to need you to do it again to protect me. So that's the concept of Haki that Luffy was trying to master while in Udon. Now the thing here is that you could ask, wait a minute, why didn't Luffy remove the collars before? And the answer is simple. Hyogoro gives us a hint to it. Rayleigh even talked about it. It's because Haki blooms in extreme situations. So like Luffy knowing that they were about to die, like if he had not removed the collars, right, they would have died. So that activated the advancement that Luffy needed to be able to use that type of Haki. And so now apparently he can use it. He's learned it now. Hyogoro doesn't want Luffy to forget it. So he's like, you used it once, use it against Big Mom right now again. And even like Luffy's pose by the end there is identical to the pose that the admirals had when they blocked Whitebeard's attack in Marineford with that advanced Armament Haki push. So this is it. He's going to use this concept of Haki against the Yonko for the first time. We'll see how it matches up. And I do want to make a note on the fact that Big Mom does not appear to be using Haki herself. So let me know what you think. Do you think he's going to be able to push Big Mom's punch back? Do you think he's going to deal some damage? Do you think that if this attack ends up doing something to Big Mom, it would be too much too soon, considering the fact that Luffy just learned this? Let me know what you think. Personally, I think that it's just going to push her back, but it's not going to deal any damage.
Even the layout for that panel, the art, seems to be a callback to that scene with Rayleigh, because Big Mom is towering over Luffy the same way that that elephant was towering over Rayleigh. And what better way to showcase a new attack than against a Yonko, right? Hopefully we don't cut away from this. I really want to see this clash. I want to see the attack make contact, I want to see it land, and I want to see the aftermath. But I am a little bit worried that he might cut away from this scene in order to keep up the suspense. But if we actually get to see the whole thing, it would be great, because we could get some serious discussion going about how Luffy ranks now, like where current Luffy is, how he matches up against Yonko level, what the destructive capacity of this new type of advanced Armament Haki is, all these sort of things. A lot of it is going to depend on whether there's a drawback to Luffy's attack, right, or this concept of flow, if it has a drawback, or a price. And also it's going to depend on Big Mom's reaction to the attack, depending on how well or how poorly she takes the attack. But either way, it's information that we need in order to be able to gauge and assess Luffy's improvement, to see if he's ready or even close to putting up a fight against Kaido.
Again, this was a very short chapter of One Piece, so that's going to do it for me. But I will say that I do appreciate the fact that it had a lot of focus. Like this was just one sequence of events within one setting, and I appreciated that, and I think we got some valuable development out of it. Also, the last bit of Luffy's dialogue in this chapter was awesome. Come at me,
Yonko Bazooka!
Thank you for watching. Like the video if you did. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Comment down below with your thoughts. Catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.